For centuries, visitors to Erdigg Hall, here in Clwyd, North Wales, have entered by the main west entrance to be received by the Lord and Lady of the house. But now the grand entrance is locked and deserted. And today, visitors to Erdigg enter by an altogether different route. Since it opened in 1977, this stable yard leading to the servants' quarters at the back of the house has been the public's entrance. When the National Trust made the pioneering decision to make the servants' quarters the focus of the house, it was a bold step. But Erdigg started what has become an insatiable demand for seeing life below stairs. Nowadays, visitors to country houses are much more likely to head for the kitchen and the scullery to see how servants lived and worked than to the stately rooms in all their splendour. Erdigg was a good place to launch the below-stairs experiment because here the lives of the family servants across 200 years are recorded in amazing detail. It was Philip York, squire at Erdigg in the late 18th century, who started the unusual Erdigg tradition of painting all the family servants. This is Jane Ebrel, housemaid to the York family in 1793. Her life and character, like all the other family servants, was described by Philip in his doggerel verse, or as he called them, crude ditties. To dignify our servants' hall, here comes the mother of us all. For 70 years or near have passed her, since spider brusher to the master. She drove the dust with brush and broom, and by the virtues of her mop, to all uncleanness put a stop. Paintings of prized horses and dogs were a common lordly indulgence, but to paint the servants was considered the height of folly. But the Yorks were an unusual family, so the tradition continued well into the 19th century. So much personal documentation of the servants is a key attraction at Erdigg, but marketing the house for its servants and not for its owners is dependent on another critical fact. And here you see it. Erdigg is one of the earliest examples of a purpose-built servants' wing, a vast complex of outbuildings where the servants were housed well away from the family rooms. This dramatic development was down to one thing, the invention of the steel wire bell pull. This new type of bell revolutionised the lives of servants and aristocrats alike. Before this, servants had to be within shouting distance. But now they could be instantly summoned from distant quarters, the family could enjoy immediate service with privacy. More importantly, indiscretions could go unnoticed, and the threat of blackmail by the servants was at last removed. It was safer too, as fires were more likely to start in the kitchens, and all the noise and nasty smells of domestic service were kept a world apart. But of course, it's precisely the smells and the hustle and bustle of extensive servants' quarters that attract the public today.
Right, you can have the sugar then, please.
In the increasingly competitive world of marketing stately homes, the attraction of visitable servants' quarters is critical. For houses built before the invention of the steel wire bell pull, it's a different story. Ham House in Richmond was built in 1610, long before wire bell pulls, and the house was never modernised or extended. So here the servants and family lived on top of each other. A tour of the main family rooms, such as the Great Hall, is quite straightforward. But if it's the servants' quarters visitors want to see at Ham House, it's a little more complicated. And here's the reason why. This 17th century back staircase leading up the full 4 flights of the house is the only way up to the servants' sleeping quarters. On the second floor, visitors could get to see this huge wardrobe room. all the Duke and Duchess's personal linen and grand state clothes would have been stored in these vast cupboards, carefully wrapped in lavender. And in this tiny mending cupboard, the wardrobe servants slept. And on up into the attic bedrooms where conditions were little better. It's hard to believe now, but staff were living up here as late as 1947. Up to 4 servants would have been crammed into this attic bedroom. Although empty and deserted now, it's not hard to imagine what conditions would have been like. Sparsely furnished and without a fireplace in sight, it would have been freezing in winter and boiling in summer. If the National Trust has been quick to realise the potential of the servant story, many private owners have followed suit. But some private owners have a problem. In order to open the main rooms to the public, they've had to move into the servants' quarters. Here at Chatsworth, there's another problem. The servants' quarters are still full of servants. How the vast army of staff at Chatsworth keep the house running and maintain the grand rooms was, until recently, a complete mystery to most visitors. But new behind-the-scenes tours are now finally unlocking some of the service doors and giving people a fuller picture of how such a grand, stately home is run.
This beer cellar is directly under the private kitchen, which in turn is under the library. And you can see the beer barrels on the left with the Cavendish crest on the end.
Your Grace, why did you introduce the below-stairs tours?
Because so many people have been here, run the public rooms time and again, and they really wanted to see how it all worked behind the locked doors.
Why do people find life below stairs so fascinating?
I think they like the practical side of how the water works, where the kitchen is, how the food gets to the dining room. Why on earth people live in such an enormous house? A lot of Americans think it's wild that anybody lives here. And those sort of questions, just practical questions, really.
Do you think people were surprised to the extent of the work that goes on below stairs?
Yes, I think they're amazed what used to go on years ago and what still goes on now.
Until recently, visitors only saw half the story. But now the search to present a real picture of the country house in all its intricate workings is the key issue facing stately homes up and down the country. Finding successful solutions will decide which houses survive into the next century.